Icehouse's 1982 album Primitive Man marked a real turning point for the band, shifting away from the more guitar-led pub rock sound of their debut and stepping fully into the emerging world of synth-pop and new wave. In truth, it wasn't really a full band project at all. When Ivor Davies began work on the album at the start of 1982, he didn't even have a band lined up. Most of the writing and recording was done by Davies himself, using early electronic instruments like the Linn drum machine and Prophet 5 synthesizer, long before that kind of gear became widespread in Australia. The early work was done in Sydney, and then finished off in Los Angeles with producer Keith Forsey, whose slick production style added a polished finish to Davies' layered arrangements. Despite its modest and fairly isolated beginnings, Primitive Man became one of Icehouse's most successful and enduring albums. It reached number 3 on the Australian charts and gained international attention, especially through the single Hey Little Girl, which became a surprise hit in Europe. Meanwhile, Great Southern Land struck a huge chord at home, becoming something of an unofficial anthem and one of the most recognizable songs in the country's musical history. The album doesn't just show the band maturing, it captures an artist embracing new technology and musical ideas at a time when that wasn't the norm in Australian music. While many local acts were still rooted in pub rock and blues, Primitive Man looked outward, drawing from European and British influences to create something spacious, modern, and emotionally subtle. Listening to the album all the way through feels like stepping into a carefully imagined world. It opens with Great Southern Land, a song built on a single synth drone that gradually unfolds into a wide, slow-burning landscape. Davies wrote the lyrics with the aim of capturing something unique about Australia, but without resorting to obvious references or cliches. The result is a track that feels vast and mysterious, driven by the steady pulse of the drum machine at its default tempo. The atmosphere is rich and immersive, and that sense of open space runs through the whole album. Uniform follows, continuing the rhythmic momentum with a pulsing bass and cool, restrained vocal lines. It's a track that rarely gets mentioned among the singles, but it plays a crucial role in setting the album's tone and rhythm. Hey Little Girl is probably the most recognizable track for international listeners. It's deceptively simple, built around a few clean melodic lines and a synth riff that sticks in your head straight away. There's a distant, slightly detached feeling to the vocal delivery, which gives the song a quiet, emotional weight. It's not an upbeat pop song in the traditional sense. It's reflective and a little fragile, but also effortlessly cool. Street Cafe shifts the mood slightly, offering something more romantic and cinematic. The lyrics are still open-ended, but the track feels more grounded, like it's set in a real place. The guitar work is subtle but effective, giving it warmth and depth without ever overpowering the smooth synth layers. Glam changes the pace with a wink and a grin. It's playful and groove-heavy, clearly inspired by glam rock but filtered through a synth-pop lens. It feels like a bit of fun after the more reflective tone of the earlier tracks, and it shows Davies' willingness to mix styles and moods without losing the album's overall feel. Deeper cuts like Trojan Blue, One by One, and Break These Chains reveal more of the album's variety. Trojan Blue is slow and moody, with a sense of longing that's never fully explained. One by One brings back the layered electronic rhythm, while Break These Chains has a rawness that harks back to their earlier work as Flowers. Mysterious Thing floats in like a quiet storm, full of soft textures and ambiguity, leading into the final track. Goodnight, Mr. Matthews is a calm and thoughtful ending, with a gentle piano melody and soft guitar lines. There's a strong hint of Lennon in the songwriting, and it leaves the album on a dreamy emotional note. What makes Primitive Man stand out is the way all of these different tracks and moods hang together so well. The album has a consistent sound and atmosphere, which is even more impressive given that it was essentially a solo effort. Davies was writing, programming, singing and performing most of the parts himself, which gave him complete control over the album's feel and structure. You can hear that in the detail, the careful layering, the sense of space, the subtle shifts in tone. It doesn't feel like a collection of singles or a band trying to replicate a live sound. It feels like a carefully constructed studio album, made with intent and a clear vision. At the time, it was ahead of its game, especially for an Australian artist. Where most of the scene was still built around guitars, beer and the stage, Primitive Man offered something cooler, more reflective, and more forward-thinking. Some critics at the time found it a bit too smooth or emotionally distant, but looking back now, it's clear that its quiet confidence is one of its strengths. It doesn't shout, it pulls you in. It creates atmosphere rather than drama. And because of that, it's aged far better than many of its louder contemporaries. Even the production still holds up. The synths don't sound cheap or thin, and the arrangements never feel cluttered. If anything, the album sounds even better on later vinyl pressings, particularly the 2017 reissue. There's a warmth and presence in the analog version that suits the music perfectly. It draws out the textures and brings the sound to life in a way that flat digital files just can't match. But whichever format you choose, the songs still shine. They feel timeless rather than tied to a particular trend. In the end, Primitive Man is more than just a well-crafted record. It's a defining example of early 80s synth-pop and new wave, made by a musician willing to take risks and step outside of the expected. It's spacious, stylish and quietly moving, with layers that reveal themselves more each time you listen. Whether you're drawn to the hits like Hey Little Girl and Great Southern Land, or prefer to get lost in the slower, moodier tracks, the album holds together beautifully. It's not just a classic of Australian music, it's a classic full stop.